Hi, I'm Joey Bahotic, and it's good to see you today. I'm the teacher of the 18 to 22-year-old program here in beautiful Jinx, Oklahoma. And today we're going to have an interview with one of my coworkers and her son on the topic of autism, and specifically how it has affected the education that James has had. I won't say James, I'll let you introduce yourself. That he has had, and the family dynamics and how that all took place with not just education, but in the family unit, and the stresses that it may have placed on it, and the blessing that it is. So I want to have them introduce themselves. Go ahead.
I'm Kristen Fox, and I work here at Jinx High School as a para.
I'm James Fox.
All right, James, I appreciate that. Now, James, and I'm going to start with Mama here, and I'm going to ask Mom some questions, Miss Kristen. And I want to say, before I start here, Kristen is probably one of the top paraprofessionals. It's not just para, it's paraprofessional. She really is. She has a servant's heart. She'll do anything that anybody asks. And I'm sure James is cut out of the same mold. In fact, as we're getting ready to do this, I just want you to see this. This was what she did for us at New Year's. She had a picture of her family and highlighted James here just to say Happy New Year. So that's the kind of person she is. Anybody's birthday, things like that. So it's a great family. Okay, y'all go right ahead. I'm going to ask a question, Mom. When did you first notice any of the signs of autism in James?
Well, I didn't realize the signs when he was younger. So he did things that nobody told me that's what it was. But he didn't get actually diagnosed until he was in high school because.
Really?
Yeah.
Did they? There's something called Child Find. Did they ever reach out to you in the school system and kind of tell you or testing for anything like that?
Well, he got tested for when he was delayed. It was called developmental delayed, and then we went to Texas, and then he was diagnosed. But
when he was in Texas.
Yeah, but it wasn't here
What
because
grade
it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was like 10th grade.
10th grade. Wow.
Because he was high enough that he just kind of went with the student. I mean, he wasn't standing out. Let's put it that way. Like a.
Right. In other words, there weren't a whole lot of signs.
Right.
What about the educational part? James, were you making good grades?
Yeah.
You were, so it didn't seem to affect your education as much?
No.
He just did stuff that sometimes it was kind of different.
How so?
Like
Can
one
you
time in
take us
3rd grade, he remember that
He's
time?
getting ready to laugh now.
That time in 3rd grade, he I guess threatened the teacher or something, and then they wanted us to go to Shadow Mountain, and so we went there. And he couldn't come back to school until then, but nobody said anything about autism, so I never thought
Gotcha.
that. So I wish they would have said something about that. Anyway.
Did they not really let you know?
No, they didn't. And so I saw it on the back of the page after the fact, like a long time after, but they never said that up front. So I never connected the two. And after that, I mean, it just some things. But not every day. Well, sometimes he did every day.
Did it get more frequent for you guys, some of those indicators as you got older? Or in other words, did you start noticing more of that behavior as he got older and you thought, well, it's kind of typical?
No, actually, when he got older, he was not doing as
It was more
much.
normal.
And when he was in another time in 3rd grade, he decided to go to the bathroom on the playground. Just out there.
Oh, poor guy. Mom was telling all of it, isn't she? I'm telling you now.
West Elementary.
Well, I was going to ask you, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you were raising James? And I guess that's part of it right there.
Yeah.
Just getting calls like that, and I'm sure you were pretty calm.
They call me a lot, and it was like, do you know what James did today? Like, this is like almost daily they called me, and I said, oh, what did he do today?
Wow. So there were probably some indicators that he had something going on.
Yeah, but nobody said, get him tested. Nobody said that, and so they never really, had that conversation with me. They just figured he was delayed or something, and so they never
Just
really.
didn't
And on the
pursue
on the
that.
IEP meetings, they never really mentioned that.
So you had an IEP, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, we did since
I
he was
was-
5.
So when he was a child coming up, what were some of the challenges beyond that? Were there anything like, maybe for you as well, some of the challenges did you feel the same as the other kids? Or did you think, well, something's different? How did you feel? About how the other kids make you feel?
I guess a little different.
A little different, yeah. Was it tough? Did they give you a hard time?
No.
No, they didn't. That's good. If you lived in Virginia where I was at, you would get a hard time, man. It was different on the East Coast, a whole lot different. Well, let's look at the educational. How has your child's school experience been? You told us some of the things. In other words, have you been an advocate for specific supports? Did he have some specific supports?
Yes, he had when he was in kindergarten, he had a para with him,
Okay.
one-on-one para, but he only needed that for like a couple of years. How long? 1 year, or how long do you have that? We have a picture of her on the refrigerator, but he had her like maybe a couple of years, but after that, he was, didn't need a para, like a para. But he was like a wild thing when he was in kindergarten, and
A lot of kids are,
I
especially
mean-
boys.
I mean, as far as regulating to do what he's supposed to do.
I got you.
But after that, I mean, second grade on, he didn't need a para, so that's good.
All right, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. In all of that, how has autism impacted the dynamics of your family? Do you have other children?
Just James.
Just James. Okay, so you James, dad, and you.
Yeah.
How did it affect your marriage, or did it? You share what you
Let me
want to
see.
share, but there's a lot of people maybe that have watched this. Some people whose families have been severely affected, and maybe you can tell us yes or no, and maybe these were the things that you did, some kind of activities you did, what you guys did to help keep the family together.
I don't think this really was an issue as far as announced problems, because he didn't have severe disability, like some families might have. But I think when he was younger, he kind of didn't listen, and I think some of that was. And so I had to just be, consistent with things,
Sure.
with the way he did, like rules and stuff, and he still didn't want to do stuff, and so I just have to continue to,
You were consistent with him.
You
You
consistent.
put boundaries. How did you feel when she put those boundaries on you, man? Especially when you're at the high school level.
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Well, let me ask you something. How old are you?
24.
You're a youngster. Yeah, I remember that far back, I think. But so you haven't been out of school a long time, maybe 6 years, right? 5 or 6 years, okay. So what advice would you give other parents with autistic kids in their journey with when the child is diagnosed, right? When they first get diagnosed? Is there any advice you could give
Well,
them?
I think, like in the school system, when James was little, they didn't really, like tell us what the deal is. They just, they didn't say, in the meetings or anything. They didn't say, this might be the this might be going. They didn't say anything, and so I had no idea what, to do. I mean, I just figured they would say something, as far as, communication, as far as
Sure.
this is what we think is going on, or something like that. They never really said that, so.
So let's think of some terms we could help some parents out there or some educators, because being a teacher, and I really face autistic kids, obviously at 18 to 22-year-old level.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that it's so important what goes on in the home, and how I communicate with the parents.
Mhm.
And I know here, we just communicate, because it's so helpful. I
Yeah.
guess if I were talking to any teachers or educators, I would say, don't stray away from the parents. Continue to communicate with
Yeah.
them. And you needed what? Some tools.
Yeah, I needed them to like communicate. Like for example, in when he was 9, he had a diagnosis of developmental delay, which is fine, but that was a broad um, diagnosis, and it wasn't name specific until he got older. So I think it would have been helpful if they had a more specific diagnosis when he was younger.
Yeah.
You know, so you know.
Yeah. So you would recommend early testing when
Yeah.
teachers or educators of any type have any, just the thought that this could be the case.
Yeah.
In other words, there's more than
Instead
just
of just-
developmental delays.
And
it
to
could
send
be
him
more.
to Shadow Mountain, and the thing was to have him go there, and then he can come back to school. But I didn't.
What was Shadow Mountain?
I said he had to go there because he threatened a teacher in 3rd grade.
Ah, so it did impact, especially early.
But
childhood.
they didn't say. It didn't say. I mean, it didn't say, anything about, continuing to go or anything. Just go there and come back to school. So it wasn't a specific.
You didn't, in other words, it sounds to me like you didn't feel like you really got any specific tools
You need direction. It's
and
just like.
direction, yes.
And they didn't say, maybe it was because of confidentiality or something like that, they couldn't say things, but it seemed like they could say things to me as far as, I don't know.
Well, they actually can, but it's come a long ways, I think.
Yeah.
And this is recent, your education's fairly recent, but I know here at Jinx, those things, and I'm not just pumping Jinx, this is where we work, and I love it here. And I'm telling you the truth, I can't think of a better place if a child has been diagnosed with that and to get the kind of help that they need. I'm going to ask just a couple questions to you, and if you don't know them, I understand. I don't know at your age or at my age. Sometimes I know the answer to these, but what are some of your maybe some goals that you have that might like for your future? Do you have like hopes and dreams that some things you really want to do with your life? Have you been able to define anything career-wise or?
I want to do animation.
Animation. Do you feel like autism has helped you, hindered you? You feel like, how do you feel that ties into it? Is it a hindrance or just no hindrance? Well, in other words, you don't look at it as no hindrance
No
whatsoever.
hindrance.
That's really good. So I would say you're a really high-functioning autistic, and that's what it seems like to me. That's really good. So you want to do animation. Are you going to go to college for it? And
Yeah.
have you applied?
I'm gonna go to Victory College.
That's a good college right there, a great college. So, are you going now?
I have a tour on Monday.
Wow, that is amazing. Sounds like you and your husband have done a wonderful job with James. I mean, and James, you're an easy kid, young man. You're a young man. I'm gonna say this. Let me look real quick, okay? What would you like to share with others about autism? Just anything that you might think of that could help a parent or a child or a person with autism that might be watching this. Anything?
I don't got any.
Nothing at all. Really. So, well, I sure appreciate both of you coming and doing this interview, and we're just going to go ahead and cut out now. And God bless both of you for being here, and I just pray the best for you in your future. Okay? Thank you so much, James, and thank you, Kristen.
You're welcome.